Good evening. Welcome back. We're going to continue our series of 3 videos on the Rochester Products 4-jet carburetor that came out of the 1955 Packard with the 352 V8. The first in the series was the disassembly of this carburetor. The second in the series was the reassembly of this carburetor and all the internal adjustments. And now this is the third, and this is going to be all the external adjustments. And they start with, the first thing they want you to do is the pump rod adjustment. The pump rod adjustment to me is an accelerator pump. And there's several steps you go through to get there. And the first thing you do is to back out the idle stop screws until the throttle valves are completely closed. So that means we got to back off both the low speed idle and high speed idle. Now, just so you know, they give you a way to get the high-speed idle adjustment back, but I found no way to get the low-speed idle adjustment back, so count the number of turns before you unscrew it all the way. So now we've got the valves unscrewed all the way, which means the throttle valves are completely closed. And what we want to do is measure from the top of the air horn to the bottom of the plunger shaft, and that measurement is supposed to be 1 1/16 inches. So here it is. So I have exactly 1 1/16 inches. I don't know if you can read this or not, but this is 1 1/16 inches right there to the bottom of the rod. So our plunger is an adjustment, so we can go to the next step. I know I said I wasn't going to read, but here we go. With the choke thermostat cover set at the index mark, adjust and locate the fast idle screw against the second step on the fast idle cam with the side of the screw against the side of the highest step. Be sure that the choke trip lever is in contact with the choke counterweight. With the fast idle screw and the fast cam in this position, carefully bend the choke rod to obtain a clearance of 53 thousandths between the top edge of the choke valve and the dividing wall of the carburetor air horn. That's a mouthful. What they're saying is take the carburetor and with the choke set at the index mark, set the fast idle cam up against the index right there and measure the gap between the choke valve and the internal wall. Let me show that to you on the camera. This is the gap where they want us to measure. The only way to get the right measurement between the throttle valve and the dividing wall is to bend this linkage, and in our case we want that to close up, so we want this rod to lengthen a little bit. I'm unwilling to do it on the carburetor, so I'm just going to take it off the carburetor. Okay, let's make sure we bend this the right way. This goes right there like that, and that goes like that. And we want to lengthen it. So let's take some of the bend out of this right here. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so we went a little too far. We got to take the rod back off and put some of the bend back in. We've had this rod on and off here several times. We're getting close. One more fine adjustment and I think we'll have it. So what I've been doing is taking this rod right off. It's getting to be a pain. So what I have is the linkage in the vise, and I'm just going to bend it just a little bit. That's it. And let's see what that does. So let's put this rod on for hopefully the last time. I'm getting pretty good at it now. You know, and if you were really careful and had 2 vice grips the right size, you could probably bend this rod with that. But I'm not going to take the chance with the linkage. I like it. I like it. So that's the choke rod adjustment. The third adjustment that we're going to attempt is unloader. That's what they call it, unloader. With the choke thermostat cover set at the index mark and the trip lever in contact with the choke counterweight lever, move the throttle lever to the full wide open position. Hold the throttle lever in this position and carefully bend the tang on the fast idle cam to obtain a clearance of 115 thousandths of an inch between the top edge of the choke valve and the dividing wall of the air horn. So let me show you that. This is a pretty simple adjustment. We put the choke at the index mark. We give full throttle, and we measure the gap between the dividing wall and the choke valve. And that's supposed to be 115 thousandths. So I have 115 thousandths stacked up here in the feeler gauge, and it's too wide. We need to decrease it. So to decrease it, we have to bend this tang right here, because that's the unloader right there. And we want to decrease the gap, so we want to bend the tang down a little bit. Let's see what that did. Ooh, went too far. Went too far. Not by much though. Oh, nice. Nice. So choke at the index mark, full throttle, and slide the valves in there, and that is really good. Really good. All right, so we have the third adjustment done. Fast idle. With the choke thermostat cover set at the index mark, move the fast idle cam so that the choke valve is fully closed. Hold the throttle level in the closed position so that the fast idle cam adjusting screw rests on the highest step of the fast idle cam. Adjust the fast idle screw to obtain a clearance of 24 thousandths of an inch between the throttle valves and the primary bores of the throttle body on the opposite side the idle adjusting needle. Okay, that's another mouthful, but we can do it. Now, what I had to do is I had a real nice spark plug chucker, and it had a feeler gauge for 25 thousandths in there, and they want 24 thousandths. So I'll just make it a tight 25 thousandths. But the reason I need the wire gauge is because it's got to go between the two curved surfaces. And if I tried to use a flat feeler gauge, I'd get an incorrect measurement. But with a wire gauge of 25 thousandths, we can get very, very close. So let's do that. So we have the wire gauge that we made out of the spark plug checker. And what we have to do is stick it in between the throttle valve and the primary bore opposite the idle adjusting needles. Now this is too tight because it actually holds it open. So what we do is take and we're going to adjust the high speed adjustment so that we can just slip that gauge in and out. Like so. And it's just a little tight, and that's okay because this is 25 thousandths and we needed 24. Now this next adjustment has me stumped. I can't figure it out. I don't even think it's on this carburetor, and that's why I can't figure it out. But it's called the atmospheric idle vent. Now obviously this is a vent, and that's a vent, but there's no adjustments to them. So I'm just going to go on to the next step. I've been perplexed on it. I can't find anything. So the next step is secondary throttle lockout. With the choke valve partially closed and the fast idle cam and secondary lockout lever in the position as shown in figure 30, I'll show you here in the carburetor, there should be a clearance of 15 thousandths of an inch between the tang of the lever and the cam. Using tool J4552, bend the tang horizontally to obtain 15 thousandths of a clearance. So we have the choke closed. We have the carburetor set on the fast idle cam. And what they want us to do is measure the clearance between the cam and the lobe here, and it's too tight. This is a 15 thousandth and it's too tight. So what we have to do is bend it a little bit. And once again, I'm going to give myself some clearance here. Bend it. Just bend it a little bit. Okay, fast idle cam, and we want 15 thousandths. Oh, and we've got 15 thousandths now. This is the sixth and final adjustment that's in the manual. Secondary throttle contour with the choke valve wide open and the fast idle cam and secondary lockout levers in position as shown in figure 31, and I'll show you here in the carburetor. There should be a clearance of 35 thousandths of an inch between the tang and the lever and the cam. Using tool J6058, bend the tang lever to obtain the 35 thousandths of a clearance. Well, so what they want us to do is have the choke all the way open and to take a 35 thousandths inch gauge and put it between the tang and the cam. And in my case, it's too tight, doesn't fit. So I think I can just sneak this in here. choke open. And it still needs just a little more. That's tight, but I guess that'll do. That's the last adjustment. So last in this series of 3. There'll be more though.